Hi, I'm Marisa Xuereb, and I'm here at Shireburn Academy at Sky Parks on level 1, a nice, shiny new academy. And I'm here to learn all about it because I had no idea that this was in the offing. So with me here, Yasmin and Mikela. Apparently they know all about it because they're behind it. And I'm going to ask them some questions to get to know more about this little dream of theirs, apparently. One of many, because these two ladies are always up to something. So, Yasmin, what's it all about?
So it's quite interesting because Shireburn actually started as a training company back 41 years ago now by my dad. So it's really interesting that we've always done training, on our technology. The company evolved from training to software development, and training has always been a part of our DNA. But now we've kind of come full circle to really go back to training, not just in the software that we've developed, but in the wider domain knowledge of what it takes to use software successfully. Because I think for me, that has been one of the things that really drove this project is, yes, we build great software, we're very proud, and we take it very personally, the software that we build it like we're building it for ourselves. Then we give it to our clients, and they don't know the software as well as we do. They don't know the thinking, the domain knowledge, etc. always, that is needed to make sure that you can use the software to the best of its ability. So that was kind of the instigator. Obviously, me and Mikela really shared this mission to want to change culture, change company culture. And together, the software and the training are two really core principles that come into that mission.
Certainly, and core to every business. Today, every business is very software dependent. I think, Shireburn, you've been very successful at penetrating a lot of local companies. I mean, you come across your payroll at almost every company. And of course, training is key, and probably it's key to making our businesses function so much better, because it's useless buying the software, buying the best software available and not being able to use it to the full and not being able to use it beyond just executing a transaction. Yeah. So I think it's a great idea. Mikela, how do you come into all this?
I'm the sidekick. I get that question all the time.
Well, you're sitting by the side and you chose your position there.
No, so I started working with Shireburn a number of years ago when I became a consultant. So when I started working alone, Yas was actually my meditation teacher, believe it or not. So I do meditate.
A woman
sometimes.
of many resources.
Anyway, so it's a long story, but basically, in principle, my biggest frustration with not just software, but with HR in general as an HR function, and also then leading on to becoming an HR consultant, was the lack of gravitas that HR has around the table.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
It's probably one of the biggest mistakes we make.
It's yes, you agreed, but also another mistake that I think we've made for a long time is HR functions have expected the board and the CEO to change that. And so we flipped it on its head and said, look, you can't wait for it because you don't know what you don't know. Therefore, the HR function, our aim is to empower the HR function to be able to build more gravitas in a boardroom and have the necessary tools to be able to do that. And to do that, you have the software, and now we've built an incredible platform to be able to give the necessary tools and the data that creates a really solid base. So for all intents and purposes, you can walk in with the confidence of a financial controller today with the amount of insights and the amount of data that you have real time on the platform, on the Shireburn platform. And second to that is the skill set needed to be able to have the confidence with that data and present it to tell a story. So what we want to avoid is the dramatization of HR. So HR, generally speaking, has always been looked at, or generally is looked at, as a little bit dramatic, a little bit impulsive, and this is greatly projecting because, when you feel, it is projection, but when you are in touch with the staff day to day, you necessitate a skill set, which is what I call the Mother Teresa skill set. You need that in an HR function. However, very often you absorb a lot of the stress of the staff. Therefore, it's very difficult to detach from the stress of the staff. So numbers give you that cooling.
They ground you.
They ground
Numbers
you.
ground you.
Exactly. So this is what we want to do. We want to
ground
ground the HR function, not eliminate the empathy role, but ground it. Take that and give the grounding.
What sort of numbers are coming out of your software? You're beyond the payroll now. You have more. Can you go a little bit into that?
So one of the things that we really worked on in the last couple of years is bringing this data forward, right? Again, like Mikela said, HR departments haven't been very used to dealing with numbers pre-software. Now, especially since COVID, we're getting around to the fact that the data is crucial. So we started on the journey of let's give companies their data. Let's present it to them in a way that they don't need to extract and push into Excel and then try to figure out the numbers. Let's just make it, click of a button, and HR person can go in, look at the dashboard, and easily, just in the bat of an eyelid, see the things that are relevant to them. Things like headcount, things like turnover, sick leave patterns. This kind of data, it's not just, okay, turnover, but it's being able to analyze your turnover by 13 different criteria, nationality, tenure, education level, and so on, to really understand the culture of your organization. In fact, me and Mikela often say, like, when you see the data straight away, the red and green flags, they pop out at you. You almost can't escape them. The second part of the journey is that we want to enable companies to be able to benchmark themselves against industry and national averages. Because, okay, you might say, okay, I have this turnover rate, oh my God, it's 20%. But if in your industry it's 30%, then you're
well.
great, right?
Yeah.
So that's the two areas that we're focusing on. One, really get to know your organization, be able to analyze your data, see where the challenges are, see where the opportunities lie for improvement. And then secondly, be able to understand where you stand in relation to your peers.
And then get the training
To be able
to
to
be
do
able
that.
to address the issues also that become apparent when you look at the data, right?
Yes, I mean, obviously, even looking at the data, we need to start there, right? Because what we've realized, again, is that a lot of HR teams are not comfortable with the data. Even when we make it very easy for them, it's just not something that
They can interpret well.
they're people, they're not necessarily numbers people. Some of them say, I hate numbers, in fact. So even that skill set of being able to be comfortable with data, to be able to understand it, to be able to present it, to make your arguments even at board level or at management level. All of this goes into, again, that domain knowledge. Yes, I can give you a dashboard, but if you don't have the training to really understand this dashboard, and then, of course, how to take action to get the best out of the data, you know, we have to go full circle.
There are a lot of consultants, Mikela, and there are a lot of training companies. How is this project different?
So we don't, when we started embarking on this project, first of all, it's different because we are different. So we present a completely different viewpoint. And our viewpoint is not learning because I'm telling you, it's learning through self-awareness. Yasmin and I both come from a very coaching background, and self-awareness is key. So in leadership, it's key. In HR, it's key. The more you know about yourself, the better you can lead. It's not something that as a culture we do very, very readily to learn about ourselves. And therefore, what we propose is that everyone will come in and leave with a better knowledge about themselves. That is what is key. But we're different because we're not going to come in and take over the space where different academies are. We want to collaborate. This is exactly what we want to do. So one of our greatest conversations is we don't want to typically come in and just take a space that has already been taken. We want to create a niche. We want to create something different. And if other academies and other institutions and our organizations are doing it already, then let's collaborate to do it better. Bringing in different ideas and collaborating with different organizations. And this is not necessarily 100% new for Malta, but we don't do it very often. So we don't want to, we want to collaborate. So for us, we want to partner with organizations, with individuals that are at a caliber that can really create an impact and make a change. This is not a question of how many courses can we churn out and how many people can we bring through these doors. We hope that a lot of people will come through these doors, but the main aim is the individuals that walk out of this academy, We want them to be able to make an impact on their workplaces. And they may not be able to change them radically overnight, but small, consistent changes, that their voice will be a little bit louder in the organization and they will gain a little bit more credibility and as a result grow. And if they gain more credibility, then they will be able to impact the organization better and the culture of the organization better. Because let's face it, you said there are many consultants. I see a lot of industries in Malta now with a couple of years, behind my back. There is a lot left to do in our work cultures in Malta. There's a lot left to do.
I'd also like to just emphasize on this point of the self-awareness, because obviously for me, with my background in self-development, the project that I have at Sanya, I see my two worlds really coming together in this. And I think a lot of the time in the corporate world, we have this idea the corporate world is like this and we have to do things like this. And I always love this quote, if you don't know people, you don't know business. And I will add, if you don't know yourself, you also don't know people. So again, we can be looking at data, for example, and I have some personal insecurity about the data, and the data is showing up a weakness that I have. If I am not self-aware, I'm probably going to cover that weakness. I'm not going to bring it because my fear of looking bad or whatnot is actually going to come in the way of me even showing this data, right? And let alone taking action on it. So I think in the corporate world, something that is really missing is us being a little bit more, less rigid in the way that we approach self-development techniques into the workplace to really understand ourselves and people better. And that is hard. It's much easier to teach numbers, teaching self-awareness, teaching people skills. It's the hardest thing, which is why we struggle the most. So we're coming with this academy from the point of like, let's start from the hardest place, which is let's go experiential, let's go self-awareness, let's have smaller groups where we can really troubleshoot and get to know our specific context, get to know ourselves within the context of the information that we're learning. We don't want to have a presentation, this is the information and off you go. We want to put people into an experiential learning situation where they come out, yes, understanding more about the dashboards, but understanding more about their relationship with this knowledge and how it applies to their day-to-day.
So it sounds like a coming together for you of a lot of different experiences that you've gained over the course of your career, and maybe also different ambitions you've had, that you've managed to somehow put them together in something which can make a real impact, no? Even on a cultural level. Local culture, training, data, and two women leading this. How do we put this together? What is the message there for people in an HR role? A good percentage of them are women today, and probably there are reasons for this as well. Maybe you want to go a little bit into that. And what sort of changes in companies do you expect to see when they embark on this journey?
So I don't think we ever saw it as a women kind of thing, although we are very present in our female persona. So, I mean, I am one who has a huge belief in women and a huge belief in the Maltese woman. I also believe that we have a capacity beyond what we are given credit for.
Underutilized?
More than underutilized, underseen. So I would say unseen, because in every great organization, so there's a great quote my mother used to have in the kitchen, behind every great man, there's an even greater woman. And in every company that I visit, the women are doing a lot of the hard work, So what is it that is preventing women from taking charge? And again, this is the same reasoning as we had with HR functions, without genderizing or whatever the word is, HR functions. But instead of waiting for the opportunity to present itself, how are we going to enable women to be able to take on the roles if they want them? Because I also have, a little bit of a understanding that the older we get, the less we want these roles as women. They become less important. So the truth is, let's look at the potential of women and let's build them. But not just the potential of women, because really and truly, you need both men and women to create healthy and safe workspaces. You need both around the table. They both bring a completely different perspective. They're both very important. However, the truth is, and I've sat around many tables, that women have to work much harder in this country to have their voice heard.
Not just in this country, mind you.
Yeah, but we're living in this country, so this is our context, but they have to work much harder. So it's quite exhausting to get to that stage. We want to give people space to create this knowledge. And my belief now is, especially with teenage kids, and you also have teenage kids, so you see it, life is changing. They don't have as many hang-ups as my generation did and our generation. So I think it augurs well for the workspace. Let's say, I believe so.
The interesting thing is that if we were two men sitting here, right, starting academy, no one would ask us, oh, you're two men, even if we're training in a predominantly female thing. So I mean, the fact that we're women is in a way incidental, right? We happen to have this shared passion and we're on this journey. But there is a benefit of it, I think, because yes, women are very much an underutilized resource. And actually one of the interesting things about the data that we have as a company, we've been on this journey to anonymize and aggregate the data to be able for us to understand work culture and also, again, to feed this back to our clients so that they can benchmark themselves against the total sum of the data. And in last Women's Day, we looked at this data and we looked at the gender gap and we looked at different occupations, participation and so on. And personally, I was shocked when I looked at the data of women participation at C-level. It's very low. And again, very much an underutilized resource. So the fact that we're two women, and again, it's not just me and Mikela, right? Because we have a whole Shireburn team here who are going to be delivering and supporting this project. But I believe doing it as two women allows us to also see this capacity and this opportunity and help women go across this gap, because what we see is we can't just look at C-level. Oh, C-level, we have 10% of women on C-level in Malta. That's the truth of the data. There is a huge gap, right? From where women start out their career and when they end, how do we help them cross this gap? The frozen middle. The frozen middle, we need to help them through training. And again, there's a lot of different aspects that you can work on to bridge that gap. Some self-awareness, some skill, and so on. But definitely any place where there is potential, and there's potential not just in women, but there are other minorities within the workplace that have so much to give and so much potential, which are being overlooked because they maybe fit outside the norm. So I think this academy definitely is something that we're passionate on, is helping to give those skills to those groups so that they can, one, create more satisfactory work lives for them, but also so they can make companies better. I truly believe that when you have a diversity at leadership, company culture is happier. I truly believe that. And again, you know, one of our taglines is supporting happier and efficient workplaces. And the happier, I'm a huge believer that happiness is the new productivity. If we want to be productive and we want to achieve something, we need to create a happy culture. And to do that, we need diversity.
Yes, which brings me to one final important topic. A lot of companies say, we're not investing that much in training anymore because, you know, people don't stay for long, we have retention issues. And probably we're making those retention issues worse when we adopt that kind of approach. And I would like you to dwell a little bit on this, the relationship between investment in training and retention, and how we can improve this, because for most businesses, this is probably one of the biggest challenges, retaining people.
There's a brilliant quote which says, what if I train someone and they leave? And the alternative is, what if you don't train them and they stay?
It's even worse. And typically that is what happens.
Yes.
You know, the truth is, it's also outlook. So I always tell the younger generation, in a sense, they have it better than we did. They have the right philosophy to training. Why? Because the best way to train is to expose yourself to different environments and expose yourself to different types of leadership and different types of people. Now, the only way to do that is to move from one organization to the next. And this is, I think, the greatest richness, is that today you see CVs and every 2 to 3 years they move. I think it's beautiful. You know, why should it be a problem? And for me, what's most important is, and I've always adopted this when I was in HR and on the frontline HR, and this is the principle: when you're with my organization, I want you to walk out better than you came in. And your experience is great. Because when you're out there, you're my greatest ambassador. So if I train you and I drive you within the limits of my organization and then you leave, then I am a part of your success. And you will always look back at my organization as a part of your success. This is like a teacher at school. You know, I love those stories when hugely successful people turn around and say, I credit my success to that particular teacher. It gives me the chills. You know, there's a video of Adele doing it, the singer, with one of her teachers. She was crucial and fundamental. So we are part, each company should consider itself as part of someone's developmental journey. Now, if a company is wise enough, they will create enough diversity in the role and enough growth opportunities within their company to be able to retain their staff, but not in the same position for too long. Recognizing that people have different needs. There are people like us who have, you know, bees in our shoes and need the challenge of a change. But then there are others that are very, very happy to do the same job. So you need both in an organization. And
I have a slightly different maybe perspective to Mikela, because I think people staying in an organization, especially an organization like ours, where the learning curve in our software and our code, you know, when we lose someone, we're losing, you know, a wealth of knowledge. And I'm very proud that we have some people within our organization who have been here for a long time, and they have been crucial in certain projects. But I don't see a dichotomy between training and leaving. I believe the more we train people, the happier they're going to be, because learning and evolving, I think, is one of the most universal things that make us happy as human beings. Lots of people say, okay, I don't like this about my organization, I don't like that, but I'm really growing and I'm really learning. And I think Gallup, they have a couple of questions on that where they ask, how have you got feedback? What are your opportunities to grow? We recognize that there's something fundamental about it. So I think organizations need to have the courage as well to just train people. And as Mikela said, yes, when they leave, for better or for worse, that comes with the territory. You can't not train 10 people because one of them might train and leave. I do really believe that if you create a good culture within your organization, people stay. So let's not be scared that training is going to be the thing that makes them leave. Maybe not having training is what makes them leave.
But I don't think it's just training. I think it's, as you said, for us, culture is everything. When you walk into organizations, sometimes, Marisa, you've been in many organizations, just the handshake will indicate what kind of culture they have. You feel, sometimes you walk into organizations, you feel the tension. You feel, we work with, a lot of HR functions, and you feel the fear. The minute you bring something into the equation, they say, but this is impossible. It's never going to be accepted. How open are we? How much do we work with organizations to be able to create safety for people to make mistakes? Because people make mistakes. So if
part
you
of the learning process, a very important part of the learning process.
I mean, if we look at the security of tenure that people have at Shireburn, for example, you see they have moved from they've grown, they've moved from, software development to project management, they've moved into quality, you see them move, and you see them contribute to different aspects of the product. The products have changed. All of a sudden, one of the greatest cultural shifts in the organization has been, oh my God, we're dealing with payroll, which is something that everybody needs. And we know people need it, and we know it really, really well. And all of a sudden, you're introducing an aspect of human and personal relationships, which we don't necessarily understand. So you could see the change, the development, the way light bulbs are starting to go off slowly in their minds. And we've had lots of discussions with developers and the sales team to be able to get them to understand what goes on the front line, because this is an aspect that they've never learned. So in a sense, you're giving them the opportunity to learn. This is why they stay. No? This is the enrichment,
I think also we focus a lot on training from a technical side. And we think, if we train people technically, then they're going to want a better role and better salary, and they might look elsewhere. But I think one of the most utilized aspects of training is the management, people skills. Because again, and this is something I've really tried to do in our organization, is not force people to have to go into management to progress. If you want to stay technical, that's great. But also then when people do go into management, we have developers who leave code and become managers, right? Which, if you ask any developer, it's a very difficult,
very difficult transition
to leave the code. But we see this across all organizations, that when people go into management, they're not really trained to be managers. They've got to where they've got to because of technical competence. And then suddenly they're managing people. They haven't been given the training. Sometimes they don't like it, and sometimes they're not good at it. And that creates a lot of problems because, as we know, most people don't leave companies, they leave managers. Very often the people that you're reporting to have a huge impact on how happy you are in the workplace. So I think this is also a real area where organizations need to focus on. Let's train the people side. Let's not just, HR deals with the people and everyone else just gets along, right? We need to understand people, again, to understand business. And training people in this is really good for your organization, but a lot of these skills transcend work. They make you a better parent, a better partner, a better friend, a better citizen. Like, these are skills, again, going back to the culture change, that's, I feel we really need to improve on.
Making work environments more human.
Yeah.
In an age when everything is becoming more digital.
Yeah.
Very insightful, I must say. There's a lot of food for thought in all this. I think it will inspire a lot of people to open up and to collaborate with you in different ways, but as customers, but also as people who are offering complementary services and could make good partners in this journey. So I wish you all the best. And,
Thanks, Marisa.
Yes, I'm sure this will trigger a lot of interest because it's a very innovative approach, I would say, to the whole training software data put together, which is very much now core to businesses, and maybe we need to be a little bit more human about it too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.